from my heart and from my hand. Why don't people understand my intention? Weird science, elastic tubes and pots and pans, bits and pieces and magic from the hand will make it weird science. Things I've never seen before, behind bolted doors, and an imagination. Weird science, not what teachers said to do, making dreams come true, living tissue, warm flesh. Weird science, plastic tubes and pots and pans, bits and pieces and bits and pieces. My creation, is it real? It's my creation. Ooh, my creation. It's my creation. Weird science. Weird science.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to issue 16 of Panel to Panel, your show about comics and everything pertaining to. I'm Spin Dash, and with me this week, as always, are the Space Chief,
Word.
Jules,
Hi.
finally making her full debut on Panel to Panel, is Rainbow Red Panda.
Hi.
And with us tonight is the artist, creator, guru of Atomic Fist Punch, Drew Maxwell. Drew, thank you for being on the show with us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Yay.
So before we start getting into talking about it, tell the viewers who may not know about Atomic Fist Punch a little bit about the comic.
Yeah, absolutely. If you go to www.atomicfistpunch.com, so atomicfistpunch.com, you can read it for free. It's a web comic. I'd say it's all ages, 5 and up. I've really tried not to make it just for kids. I'm finding that half my audience is adults that don't even have kids, and the other half are, 9-year-olds and up. And so it's an adventure, kind of classic sci-fi superhero mashup. I'd say it's been described as being somewhat not whimsical, but more playful and fun than dark and serious. And the reason I really decided to do this is I have my own kids, and I'm constantly trying to force them to read comic books because I loved it so much. And I took them to the comic shop, and I said, hey, what about this? Oh, no, I can't show them that. Oh, my God, no, okay. That's really violent. Oh, okay, Batman's having naughty time with Catwoman. Okay, I can't show them this. Okay. Well, what is there? Okay, there's some good stuff. There's Owly, there's Mouse Guard, there's some really great stuff, but frankly, just not that much. And I just said, hey, I'm going to make something of my own to, try to instill that love of comics. And so that's where it all kind of started. From there, it's just developed into what it is now. I do updates every week, a page a week. In addition to that, I post fan art. There's different games and stuff on the site that you can go check out. And we're in the process of developing an iPad game right now for it. Mm-hmm. I have a couple developers I'm working with, and we're doing that, and I'm very excited about that. We're getting close to beta testing, and so that's pretty cool. But yeah, that's what it is. It's just a fun adventure story that is safe for kids, and adults like it too, which is great.
Fantastic. Yeah, I was reading it. I loved every minute of it from the very beginning. I love the art with it. And like I mentioned before we started, before we got on the air, I saw, when I was reading it and I was looking at the art, and this is the way my warped brain goes, and anyone who knows Panel knows I'm out there in left field somewhere. I was seeing, the way I looked at it, I was seeing Dr. Seuss meets Johann Vasquez. from Invader Zim, from Invader Zim and Johnny the Homicidal Maniac, which is one of my favorite comics of all time. Those were the two. To me, it kind of seemed like a mashup of that, because the way that your shading and your grain was kind of reminiscent of some Seuss work, and then there was bits and pieces of Johann Vasquez in it.
Yeah, I've gotten the Invader Zim thing a bunch, and it's funny because I never really watched Invader Zim. I've heard it. Oh, you got to watch it. It's great. You got to watch it. And I've been meaning to. I haven't, but. Like 9 times out of 10 people are like, have you seen Invader Zim? Because your thing's a lot, it's similar. So I got to go check it out. Absolutely.
Definitely.
I've heard it's good.
I was thinking,
mention it, yeah.
I can't even remember. I can't get in my head who the artist is. But have you ever read the JSA files, the Whistling Skull minis? The artwork kind of reminds me of that a little bit too, because the way it's shit. You can see the like almost like the strokes in it and the shading. It's reminiscent of that too, which that was one of my favorite miniseries of all time. I love the Whistling Skull, and I got into it right away. I like how it starts out quick, it moves fast, and one of the things I like about it most is, as we saw this week, I think I'm a little too loud. Jules posted this. It was the shirt that store had out, the girls' shirt that had like the school subjects with the check marks and like math isn't checked on it. And I thought having a positive little girl in this role as scientist is great. I mean, that's something missing from comics today.
I completely agree.
And I thought that was great. I mean, in the wake of that happening this last week, and reading this, I was like, well, that's really refreshing to see a girl shown not as a sexual object or something like that. And it's a smart little girl who builds awesome weaponry.
Thank you.
I thought that was cool.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that you are noticing that, because that was something, like literally I took my daughter to the comic shop and I was just like, oh my God, Power Girl, really? Which has its place. I'm not gunning it in any way, but like every superhero girl, it's just like they're falling out of their costumes and they're in these ridiculous poses. And, I was like, does it all have to be like this? I mean, so that was important to me. So thank you for noticing that. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So I have an 8-year-old who is a huge Atomic Fist Punch fan, and after we read it, and then we looked at everything, she's like, I need to order a print. Like, she was just so excited. I was like, okay. I was like, we'll order one. I was like, I don't know if we'll get it in time for the show, but we're definitely going to order one. And then she saw the iPad, or the iPhone app, and she's like, we have to get that, Mommy. And I was like, well, I don't know if it's ready. She was just so excited.
That's great.
The thing that it reminded us, the first thing that it reminded both of us of was in the Professor Layton game. I don't know if you've ever played them. There's a robot, and he's called the Spectre. And like as soon as we saw, that's like what we thought of. And I was like, oh my gosh, he's so cute. That's what he reminds me of. Even though
that's great.
Kidnapped.
That's great. Well, you'll have to send me your daughter's name. I'll do a drawing for her.
Oh, oh my gosh. She would be so like cool. She would freak out.
Yeah, after the show, send me your address. I'll draw something up and send it to her. That sounds great.
That would be so nice. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
She is going to be so happy.
Oh, that's great.
So, yeah, we love it. I mean, I love, my favorite character, I would have to say, is probably Volt. I love him.
I get that a lot. So cute. Volt's a lot of fun.
Yeah, when I saw him working on something, I was hoping it would be a character, like a lovable character that I was going to fall in love with. But yes, like Space Sheep is saying, I do love that they have a strong girl character that you can relate to, and it's not like, that you want to be like her. Because like he was saying that shirt that it was like my favorite subjects are like dance, this, that, and the other thing, and then math wasn't checked, and it was like nobody's perfect. And so it was really upsetting because, of course, math should have been checked,
Like, why would you set that up that way? I don't understand. My daughter loves science and loves like being engaged with just thinking about the big picture of things, how do they work, and all of that. And there's just very little out there that is encouraging of that. So, I appreciate that. That's something people are picking up on.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
It's a positive thing.
Love
I noticed that right away, actually, because Jules was just talking about this week, or she put it on. I think was on Facebook, Jules, that you posted that, or
Yeah,
did you
it was
just
on
comment
Facebook.
on it? Oh, I saw it, and I thought, you know what? That's really.
I definitely commented on it because I was like, I can't believe it.
Yeah.
But the place that had the shirts, it was the children's place that had it. They got a whole bunch of complaints and they pulled all of those shirts. And they said that they didn't want to be. They said that they didn't want to be a part of something that was going to give girls a negative image. I don't think they realized what they were putting out there.
Probably not.
So they just thought it was cute and like girls would like it, you know. So and they said they pulled them all. This is what they did, and they put to the customers. So that was really nice that they did that.
Good.
So like, you know, people can definitely get the word out, and you know, social media is so strong, right? Just say, hey, look, this isn't appropriate for little girls. You want them to love math, you want them to love science, you want them to love algebra and all this stuff. Not, you know, I mean, the other stuff's important too, but you know.
Well, and I think they're waiting to be interested in things. They're, you know, like look at Hunger Games. Say whatever you want. Every girl went out and took up archery. You know, like. That is great. There's an example of a strong character who's fighting for herself, taking her destiny in her own hands. I mean, I've only seen the first movie. I haven't read the book, so I don't know how it ends up.
They're fantastic.
Yeah, my daughter loved it. She was like, oh, she's a fighter. She does, you know, she takes action. So there's an example of, you know, if you build it, there's an audience waiting for it. So.
Well, what I really liked, if you look at it, you know, especially in the last decade or so, and you always see, like Jules, you said, you always see those shirts and with the girls, and it's always like dance or it's like priorities, boys, and things like that. But a lot of people are trying to brill, like look at Harry Potter, how Hermione was a very strong female character. She was the brains of the operation. You know, Harry and Ron would never have gotten to where they were if she was not there to say, hey, sure, she was annoying at times, but she was very much the brains. But at the same time, you saw her, you know, she still had the femininity to her. And then you mentioned Katniss in the Hunger Games, and I'm a huge Hunger Games fan, and you're right, everybody was taking up archery. And what was really good about that period was not only did you have the Hunger Games came out, Disney brought out the movie Brave with Merida, who was a very, you know, the first Disney princess who's not out there waiting for a prince to come, and that'll be talked about more in my new series, Disney Observations, coming soon. But shameless plug. But you know, we're starting to see more strong female characters in different media, and of course, when you're talking about DC and Marvel, you know, these characters have been around for years, and yeah, they're the audience, you know, they're overtly sexualized, and we know this. And you know, so to have a good child comic, you know, like I put up earlier, like My Little Pony is out, you know, which is a fantastic book. I read it. I'll admit it. I read My Little Pony. It's a fantastic book. Adventure Time. We're getting a lot more kid-oriented books from the different studios, even DC with Tiny Titans. We're seeing a lot more kids.
Yeah, my kids love Tiny Titans.
Kids books. My son is a huge fan of Bat Cow. He loves Bat Cow.
Who doesn't
love Bat Cow?
Bat Cow's awesome.
True.
Well, I think that there's definitely, like, that audience, like I said, is waiting and interested, and, you know, comics are so great, but, you know, it's dominated by stuff for 35-year-old guys, which is nothing wrong with that, but that's really the core market that they're going for. There's a whole other world that people seem to be exposed to that isn't just being pandered to little kids, you know, like, you see certain stuff that's made and it's like, oh, this is for little kids. There's nothing really interesting here for anybody past age 4. Okay? Then there's like nothing for the greater part until they're older, and then it becomes this really like sassy, snarky, like disrespectful to parents and like all this stuff. And it's just, there's this void that I think has a real opportunity to be filled, and certain people are filling. If you look at Adventure Time, there's a great show. I watch it, my kids watch it, I laugh as much as they laugh, it's this far away from being inappropriate, so they feel like it's so cool.
Yeah.
I know that it is inappropriate at times, and that's why I think it's great. So, you don't have to pander down to them being kids. You can just make something that's adventurous and fun and engaging, and people will be drawn to it. So.
Yeah, because one of Chief and my favorite shows is Regular Show. We absolutely love Regular Show.
Yeah. That is great.
But and it's what's funny is it's on Cartoon Network. But you watch shows like Regular Show and even shows back, like some of my favorites. I loved the Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack, which was on.
Yeah.
Fantastic shows.
Yeah.
Brian Doyle Murray.
You watch them and you're like, okay, this should not be on Cartoon Network at this time slot.
No, get away with it.
I was watching an episode of Regular Show, and a Muscle Man and his girlfriend are like running at each other, and both of their above their torso areas are doing this number, and you're just like, should my kids be watching this as goes in? But like you
I
said,
think there's implied sex in that episode too, because they kind of explode.
No, there wasn't. There wasn't.
You thought there was, though.
Well, that's exactly. Well, that was one of the things. Like, I'm 38 years old. I'm an old kind of dude to be. I guess even beyond this show, I guess I think I'm older than everybody here. But when I read Atomic Fist Punch, it grabbed me right away, and I'm usually into. I love the dark stuff. Like
me too.
I love the darker Daredevil stuff. I love the darker Batman stuff. I'm a huge Punisher fan, huge Wolverine fan. Love the dark stuff, like the DC Vertigo stuff. And but your comic grabbed me right away, and I enjoyed it. And I read all 6, like all the settings. So it's definitely doing something right.
Thanks. And, I got my first love of comics was the dark stuff. Daredevil, Born Again, that whole series, Wolverine and the X-Men. Like, that's what got me into comics. And, really dark Batman, Arkham Asylum, that kind of stuff I love. And then, then you see stuff like Adventure Time, and you're like, well, that's really fun too. So I think I've tried to bring some of that darkness into Atomic Fist Punch, because I do think kids like stuff to be maybe not dark, but a little mysterious, a little creepy. I have these kids on their own with no parents fighting giant robot monsters. In reality, you just call, like, the police would come put these kids with some, somewhere and whatever. They're just, like, left in their weird scientist, lab house and building giant atomic fists to fight monsters with. So I think you got to some of that. Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think you got to have. I think kids respond to stuff when it's a little bit on the edge, a little bit not just so safe for them all the time. And I think too many people pander to, like, well, that's a little scary or whatever. Kids can handle a lot, and I think they want to be treated like they can handle stuff without it being inappropriate. So that's where I'm trying to put this as something that treats them like they're smart. They have.
Yeah. You're not dumbing it down for them.
Right.
Well, one of the panels that I loved is the boy punching through the car, and just the way that's drawn, that is the greatest. I love that panel. I sat and stared at that for probably 5 minutes, going, "Oh, that looks cool."
That's great. That's great. Yeah, I had a lot of fun drawing that one.
Is that another? This is going on the living room wall there, Chief? Is that another? This is going on the living room wall.
You should get a print. There you go.
I will. I'm sure Jess will love it. I haven't showed Jess yet, but my wife's gonna love it. That's right up her alley too.
It'll go right next to the lightsaber wielding Batman killing a shark and the Son of Space Chief.
That's right. And the Tom Baker I just framed.
Oh, you haven't shown us the frame Tom Baker yet. You haven't shown us the frame Tom Baker.
I'll get it for you. Hold on 1 second. I'll be right back.
Yeah, we gotta get it.
We're on a Doctor Who kick.
Well, with the new Doctor being announced the other weekend,
Yeah.
All right. Sorry to interrupt the show like this, but
no, I want to see the frame Tom.
Here we go.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, that's cool.
That's
great.
nice.
It was a pinup.
Even looks better on video.
It was a Fangoria magazine from like 30 years ago. I've had that probably since I was 8 years old. And I was looking through this old Fangoria magazine, and I was like, wow, look at this. And there's a big fold-out. That's Tom Bacon. Oh, that's going on the wall. I got to get a frame for that.
That's awesome.
Panda, were you able to check out the link I sent you for Atomic Fist Punch?
I actually checked it out before you sent it to me.
Oh, God.
I haven't read all of it just because I'm a slacker. But what I have read, I really do like, and I haven't shown it to my daughter yet. But I think she'll like it. But it's one of those things where if she knows, try not to like it as much, just because she's like that. She likes dark stories. Like she's really into like books and stuff like that. Mainly because she's not supposed to read them, not really what they're for, and you know, big dark stuff is for adults, and so to have that, it's like her little like pleasure, I think. So I love the artwork. It's like if I was artistically capable of doing things like that, I feel like that's like the kind of stuff that I would like to draw, but I just fail at it. But yeah, like
It's a very cool art. I love the art.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Like I said, I love I'm an artist, and I've shown some of my art before. I really love your use of the grains and the shadows and just the text. You know, is a lot of people don't see it, but when I look at it, I can see kind of like the texture of the art, of the way that you use the colors and blend them. Because as a darker type of story, it's a different palette that you use than than say My Little Pony, which is very bright and colorful. You know, you have to mix the colors a little bit. And I loved, like Chief, I was reading it in the beginning with the giant robot. I'm seeing, I'm actually seeing like the Iron Giant. I'm seeing Robbie the robot. I'm seeing, the robot from Lost in Space. And reading it, I was also getting a little bit, and Chief, Jules, you can tell me, Panda, you can tell me, I was also seeing a little Ultron in there. I was seeing a little bit of Ultron.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Sentient robot. Comes back, takes his father.
Yeah.
I was seeing Ultron.
Yeah.
Ultron's great. I like Ultron.
Absolutely.
We've talked about that many times.
Robot
People
based on
right now
destroying
that are
the
not
universe.
liking Ultron. There are people out there right now that don't. There are people out there right now that don't like Ultron or a storyline with Ultron, but we've opened that can of worms before.
I believe I said if you didn't like Age of Ultron, you didn't understand it, but that's just me.
Yeah.
I'm like
Believe it or not, there's a
2
lot more
issues in
that
on
don't.
that.
Keep an open
I loved it. A lot of people didn't like
open
it.
mind. That's what I gotta say, and look at it from multiple points of view.
Yeah. You can't really be too critical. It's a Marvel event, it's all going to change by next year, whatever happens at the end anyway, so it doesn't really...
Oh, yeah.
You just enjoy the ride, go on the ride, have fun, get off, and move on to the next ride. Yeah.
I would suggest with Age of Ultron, though, that you pick up the tie-ins. Get the tie-ins because they're very important. There's a lot of people that didn't like it didn't read the tie-ins. Because you had an Avengers Assemble with Black Widow's story, and then you had like some other books
the
that
X-Men
different
had a tie-in.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And there's a lot of the tie-ins are essential to that story, I think.
Superior Spider-Man, Fearless Defenders had a tie-in.
Yeah.
Pick those up.
Yep.
Now, I will say 2 of my favorite panels from what I read. Now, I'm only through the 4th part right now. But I loved it when he's going to punch the robot, and he doesn't have his gauntlets on, and it's like, clang.
I love that.
Because to me, that's classic. That's classic of anything. And it reminded me, I'm a huge fan, Chief's a huge fan, we're fans of the Nostalgia Critic. If you've ever seen the Nostalgia Critic he does movie reviews, and he made a movie called Suburban Nights. And this premise of the movie is they're after this magic gauntlet, and there's a scene where some of them are fighting on a playground.
Okay.
And one of the characters is dressed as Indiana Jones. So he has a sword. He has a sword, and they're on one of those play bridges, at playgrounds, the play bridges.
Yeah.
And he does the classic scene from Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom where he's like, prepare to meet Kali in hell. And then, of course, we know Indiana Jones cuts the rope, but when he brings the sword down, it just goes clang. And he kind of stands there, kind of like
chain.
Yeah, it just goes clang and stands there. And that's what was running through my head because I'm always, whenever I see something, I'm always putting it to something else. So that always made me laugh out loud. And then when he finally punches through the robot, I was seeing Goku doing the Dragon Fist when he was punching through the robot. I'm not sure if Dragon Ball Z fans or not, but Goku doing the Dragon Fist through through the robot.
Yeah,
I love Dragon Ball Z.
One of the best parts for me is having these characters, the boy is just think first, ask questions later, if you even think of the questions later, well, how do I solve problems? I'll just jump in there and start punching everything until it's fixed, and then you counter that with the sister who's like, whoa, did you just punch a car in half? He's like, yeah, wasn't that awesome? And she's like, it was full of gasoline, right? He's like, I didn't really think about that. And she's like, you could have died. He's like, but I didn't.
Yeah.
So that's the part that I really love, writing and creating. So, thanks for those.
That's me and the space wife right there. me and Jess, I'm always just getting hurt. She's like, what are you doing, dummy? What are you
Right. Did you think this through? No.
Yeah, no, I just...
Nah.
Right.
Why think it through? That scene actually where the gauntlets are kind of it reminded me a bit of when Spider-Man runs out of web fluid. Like when he sticks the hand and nothing comes out. And he's like, oh man, what am I going to do now? Exactly.
Which is great. I mean, I think everybody can relate to that moment, where you're like, oh, this is going to be great. And then you're there and you're like, oh no, this is terrible. If only it would have fought for 1 minute. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's funny.
Excellent.
So
I wanted to ask Drew. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm interrupting. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Jules, because we're still on that subject. I don't want to change the subject. Go ahead.
I was just going to say.
I was just going to ask more like what
favorite, but. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll shut up. I'm shutting up.
There's some wild and crazy stuff.
No, I was just going to say that I really loved the part where, of course, I love Volt, so where he tells him to clean his room and then make him a cake, and he does it, and then when he makes him the cake, it's like all like messed up and like all like, I think, was there like worms in it or something? I don't know. It was just like all
just
like
he's never made a cake. He has the program to make a cake, but doesn't know what it should look like. So technically that's a cake, but it's the most disgusting looking cake ever. Yeah.
So I love that part. I thought that was so funny because I mean he made, that was a cake to him. He made a cake, so you have to try it. Like you can't. It's rude not to try it. You have to try it.
Hey, Chief, you and I, we now got a thing. We're going to create the most nastiest thing for Jules ever. And because we made it, she has to try it.
She has to eat it. Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Can I go back to what I said? Because I got to take that back now.
Nope. You threw down the gauntlet.
But the other part that I loved was one of my favorite parts is where they were talking about what to make, and she was saying, no guns, I don't like guns. She's like, what if a cute bunny gets hurt? Like, I thought that was of animals. So I was like, that's my girl. Yeah, she's thinking of the animals, like.
And there was a bunny on her head. There was like a bunny on her head.
Right.
Yeah.
And here's what's funny, okay, having being a boy who grew up only with a brother, every stick was a gun, every stick was a sword. It's all like that. That's just how boys think, right? And then, I had a daughter, and she was like, Daddy, that's cute, don't hurt it, blah, blah. So I just said, what would my daughter say when they're designing the weapon? What would it be? She would be like, no, bunnies. I don't want to hurt any bunnies. It's things like that. I just said, well, that's got to go in. So, it's been great to have that perspective,
That and Panda would have come after you.
You say on the website that you did say that you based the two characters on your own children, right?
Yeah, they are my kids. So my daughter is Zoe and my son is Xander. Yeah, absolutely. And actually show them the pages before I post them and say, what do you think? Is this pretty right? Is this what you do? And most of the time I got it down. Sometimes they're like, no, Dad, no. You got to change it. So, little mini editors. Yeah, it's great.
Well, if this ever gets picked up for like a TV show, they will get likeness royalty checks.
Little dot eyes.
Yeah, make sure you get that in your contract. You got to get your movie check.
Yeah.
Get them to sign those over right now.
Right.
But yeah, I was saying, it's a good thing the bunnies didn't get killed, because Panda and Norton would have not been happy about that if the bunnies got
Norton
killed.
would not have been happy about that.
If you like the bunnies, we're going to do, once the entire first arc is done, we're going to go back, because the bunny's about to come back again, and the bunny's name is actually Fluff Bomb. And it's going to have side adventures because it's in the lab so long. It gets exposed to like gamma rays and then becomes its own little superhero and goes out as like a side comic and does like little adventures with other animals and saves stuff in tops for like smaller kids. Done just as like a little motion kind of comic thing on the side. So if you like,
it kind of reminds me of the platypus on Phineas and Ferb.
Perry.
Right.
I love Perry. That's funny.
Great.
Bunnies are like my favorite though, so I would be really, really.
I see Norton got his glasses back.
I found them. They've been missing for like a week, and I finally found them last night. I was so excited. I thought they were gone.
I watched the video where you couldn't have him on camera because he didn't have his glasses.
I know. I won't put him on
He's
camera
shy.
unless he has his full costume.
Did you get him the old lady things for him that you texted me about, the old lady like straps?
I need to get them. I'm thinking a rubber band might work, but I keep forgetting. I need to get him like an old lady chain or something though.
You need to get him like the old school, like Horace Grant, Chicago Bulls, rec specs, the big glasses that Horace Grant used to. And I'm pulling out Chicago Bulls from like the 90s.
Horace Grant, man, that's old school.
Yeah, I'm pulling out Horace Grant.
For animals.
I don't even know who that
I
is.
think that since they're made for animals, they would have like a strap or something on them already, but they don't.
I'm gonna put up the picture of you, and I'll say this because for all the new viewers who may not have watched Comic Time with Panda, Norton is like the coolest rabbit ever. He has met like everybody, but I gotta show, and I'm gonna put it up, Panda. I'm gonna show the picture of him with Mike Mignola. Of course, we all know from Hellboy. Mignola has this look on his face, like, are you serious? I gotta take a picture with a book.
Whenever I met him, I was really nervous to ask. Like, I had been asking people all day, like, to take pictures with, like, Norton, and most of them were like, yeah, like, no one said no. And he was just like, yeah, but I felt bad. I'm like, I feel like he doesn't necessarily want to do this, but he did it, and it was, I don't know.
Well, forget him, because where's Hellboy in hell?
I feel kind of bad. Like, I feel like I forced him into it.
Nah, but I'm going to show that photo because that is hilarious. Now, I do want to know, the comic, do you freehand draw first and then do you transfer onto digital? Do you have one of the digital art, the art pads that you can put onto your computer? Is it an iPad?
Oh, look. There it is.
Okay.
I have a Cintiq, which I draw on.
Yeah.
A Wacom Cintiq. And I usually lay out the page on paper first, just as a rough sketch, just to lay out kind of the thoughts of it. And then I go right to the Cintiq, and I do it all in Photoshop and a little bit in Painter, but mainly Photoshop. So, yeah, and I love it. I've done it traditionally, ink on paper and everything, but this is just a different tool. It doesn't really do anything but give you a few more options on tools. But it's a similar process. It's all by hand. When you're working on it, it's ink and it's on paper, and that's what it feels like. I've even created some dry brushes because that's really important for the shading to me. And that was something that took me like 6 months to finally get the right dry brush to do some of the like the whooshes and stuff when they move their arm, you'll see like the motion. I wanted that to look like almost like a whitewash on paper, so it took me forever to get that brushed down. But that's how I work. It's all digital, which I really love.
How much does one of those things
Did you go to an art school, or did you learn this just on your own? Are you self-taught, or did you go to an art school?
I went to a high school of the arts, and that was okay. And then when I was going to school, this is at the dawn of all of this Photoshop and everything else, and I was accepted to a bunch of different schools, and I took some basic art classes at a couple different schools. But at the time, I would call and talk to the professors or whatever and say, okay, so tell me about your digital program, because I knew that's where I wanted to go. Mm-hmm. And they didn't really, the students were teaching the professors at the time, or the teachers, what Photoshop was and what you can do with it. And no, it's not just filters, you can actually draw in it. And so it was, at the time, the environment really wasn't there. So I just went off on my own and did it. I then went into filmmaking I'm still in filmmaking, probably 50 years now. So that then led back into this from a storytelling standpoint and everything else. My first love was always comics. And so I knew I got to get back into comics. It's what I love the most. And it plays off of the storytelling that I knew from filmmaking. So it all kind of came together.
We may be calling upon you for Panel the movie.
We need a director.
And people think I'm crazy, but Chief and I have been throwing out some ideas about an anniversary film. We've been throwing out some ideas.
You want to find the Necronomicon to time travel back to the Golden Age and buy a bunch of Action Comics #1s.
Nice. Nice.
Me too.
That would work.
Yeah.
But we'll accidentally unleash demons instead.
Yeah. And
you just find him in the wall of the house like that guy recently. Did you read about that?
Oh yeah. And then his aunt came over, whatever, and they tussled over and ripped the cover.
$70,000 rip. Whoops.
I would have been like, "Here's my bail money, which I got from selling the comic because I killed my aunt."
Yeah, sorry.
I just threw her down the stairs.
Did you hear about the artist recently who made a statue? Oh, there you go. He made a statue, and he ripped up all kinds of comics and covered it in, almost like decoupage, I think, of ripped up comics. And then somebody came in and saw, oh my God, is that real? He's like, yeah. I'm like, that's Avengers #1, man. That's worth $30,000. What are you doing? He didn't know.
That hurts.
I think it
physically hurts me, Drew.
Yeah. It's a great story.
I'll come a little bit. Come and join you, honey. A big one in the head.
Yeah.
Oh, that would hurt me so much.
That's awful.
So with your filmmaking experience, do you think that Atomic Fist Punch will ever get animated? An animated movie?
Yeah, I've actually been approached to do an animated series. So that's something that we have, in the works down the road.
If you need a voice actor.
Yeah, me too. I always wanted to do that.
If you need a character that sounds like Gilbert Gottfried or anybody like that, you just give me a call.
Or Jay Leno.
Or Jay Leno.
I mean, it's good,
That's pretty good.
Or if you need it, I'm there. I'm there for
That's really
you.
good.
It's good.
That blew my mind the first time I heard him do it. I was like, oh my God.
That's all I got to say about that.
I might be calling you.
You know what? And you would actually, if you did that, you would actually be fulfilling something from my high school drama club when they gave me an award that said most likely to be an animated character. I can mark that off my bucket list.
Good.
I'll mark that off my bucket list.
That's great. Yeah, there are plans to do an animated production. We want to get through the iPad game first, and then transition from there. There'll be a couple of games, and then transition into an animated production. So it's definitely something we're going to do.
Fantastic.
I'm available. I'll take time off work there.
Okay, great. Does the rabbit act?
Yeah, does the rabbit act?
Norton can act. Norton will fulfill all your bunny character needs.
Okay, good.
He's a Shakespearean.
He's a method rabbit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, method rabbit.
To be seen soon in Rosencrantz and Guildenstern.
Awesome. What were some of your? I'm asking Drew this, not you, Spin.
Okay.
I already know what your influences are.
Okay.
What were your influences as a kid? Did you read was it like 90s era X-Men? Was it like Jack Kirby stuff?
Okay. Well, as a kid, I had kind of two phases when it came to comics. One was, back in the 70s, corner store, Fantastic Four, Shogun Warriors, Godzilla comics, that kind of stuff, which I loved. And then I kind of fell out of it. Comics weren't around. I kind of thought they went away because none of the stores around me had them. And then I was at camp, and a buddy of mine was reading these comics. I was like, what are these? What is this? Avengers, X-Men? I'm like, I got to check this out. And that was it. And, all Marvel, all the way. X-Men. That was like the big thing for me. I thought Wolverine was like everybody else, the coolest in the world. I really loved the X-Men when they were just like still at the mansion all the time, and just, they weren't always out in space, and it wasn't tied into like 100 crossovers, and they just were underdogs and really loved and responded to as a kid. John Byrne stuff, John Romita Jr.'s stuff on X-Men, I loved. That was a big influence. Like everybody else my age, the old G.I. Joe comics, I was really into as a kid.
Yeah, G.I. Joe.
One of my favorite issues, and I still use this when I teach comic book illustrating, is the silent issue of G.I. Joe where Snake Eyes goes to get Scarlet.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
It's no words in the
I remember that.
Sequential storytelling. It is a brilliant comic. It still holds up, and it's so fantastic. But so I love that. And then as I got a little older, I found people like Bill Sienkiewicz, who I was like, whoa, what is this? When he was doing New Mutants and everything, I was just blown away. I was like, you can do comics like this? You can just, everything goes? This is amazing. Jack Kirby, obviously. Yeah, there you go. That's it right there. Yeah. Yeah. I think my brother and I have all of those still. Jack Kirby, as I got older, I really got more into Jack Kirby and just how he makes two people talking the most epic conversation ever. It's just, everything's dynamic. Every line, it doesn't have to make sense as long as it looks bold and powerful. I love that.
Absolutely. Kirby is truly the king of.
He absolutely
of the comic
is.
book.
And some of his stuff, he dares to let it just be really ugly. It's some of it, it's like, it's just an ugly person, but they look like they could just kick your butt, it's so great. Like, Captain America should look like he's got weird grunty faces when he's fighting a bunch of Nazis. He shouldn't always look like majestic. He should look like he's about to like burst a blood vessel in his neck, and he did that better than anybody else. Just great. Yeah, absolutely.
I love Kirby's technology, like the way he would draw technology, and just his backgrounds are just mind blowing. Some of the Kirby backgrounds.
Yeah, that was a big influence, and that's part of. I mean, the Kirby thing is definitely. I'm trying to put my own version of it a little bit into Atomic Fist Punch with all the stuff in the lab, and I'm doing some Kirby dots and all that kind of stuff in there, just because I love it so much. It's almost like iconic visual language now. If you don't have it in there, it feels like, Kirby stuff. It needs to be a little bit in here, and so, yeah, definitely, that guy is just amazing.
And it was
Absolutely.
It was interesting when you were talking about, a lot of the stores around didn't have them, because 2 weeks ago we had on Tracy Yardley, who is the artist for the Sonic the Hedgehog comics. He was on with us. Yeah. And we had a long discussion about how, you used to be able to get comics at grocery stores, and you used to be able to find them anywhere. And now it's restricted. I mean, the only places I see comics these days are either the comic store or Toys R Us. And
Yeah, I
I'm
was gonna
sorry,
say that.
Toys R Us, but I would not buy a comic from you to save my life because they're bent,
No.
they're torn, they're just not good.
Yeah.
Take care of your comics, Toys R Us. You know. But those are like the only
Yeah.
two places you
Toys
see
R
comic
Us.
books these days are in those two. At least me, that's where I'm seeing them. Just those two
that's-
places.
You're dead on, and that's part of why I wanted to do this as a web comic. I mean, if you are a smaller run comic, you might have 10,000 readers, 20,000 readers. That would be great. As a web comic, everyone can instantly access Atomic Fist Punch anywhere, tablet, phone, computer, whatever. You can consume it and move on. And I think everything in 20 years will be that way, obviously. I mean, it's going that way. The distribution is just so weird now. I mean, I love comic stores. I go in there all the time. I always buy stuff when I go in. Nothing against that, but the accessibility and the amount of work you have to do to seek out some of these books is just really a shame because there's some great stuff that nobody sees.
Hashtag
So-
save Pedro. Hashtag save Pedro.
Exactly. Save
Our buddy
Pedro.
Pedro.
That's our buddy in Brazil who doesn't get comics.
Yeah, they are 2 years behind,
terrible.
and they're 2 years
They're-
behind in their comics. Hashtag
that's
save
awful.
Pedro.
Okay. Will do. That's fine. Yeah, that was a big thing for me when I started this. I said, do I want to do this print or do I want, I want this to be something that a parent can say, hey, here's the new page is up. Here, read this in the car on the way to soccer. And it takes 3 minutes and you're done and the kid is engaged in that imaginary world for 3 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever, and you can access it while you're waiting or whatever. And I think that was important to me when I started out doing this. So, yeah.
Do you think that we'll live to see the death of print comics? Do you think there'll be no more in a few years? Because it seems to me like with the New 52 and Marvel now, to me, comics are more popular than ever. I mean, for the first time, I've started seeing like Superior Spider-Man sell out, and like
Yeah.
books are
Hold on,
selling
I'm
out.
gonna smell the news.
And it seems like print comics are as big as ever, but you still hear people say that print comics are dying.
I don't think they'll ever be done. I mean, I'll give you a flip side to the, mass market Marvel stuff. My wife just bought me the Daredevil Born Again Artist Edition, which I don't know if you're familiar with those. IDW is putting them out. It's the original scans of all the original black and white art with the blue line pencil, with, all that stuff. I mean, you can see the editor's notes, you can see the overlays, all that stuff. That's something, as an example, you can never consume digitally. It just would diminish the
Right.
experience. The paper is on, almost the same stock paper they drew it on. It's an amazing book. It's $160 worth of amazing.
Yeah. I've seen that DC's tried to mimic that with their director's cuts the last
Yeah,
couple of
DC's
months.
starting to do a lot of director's
The
cuts. The Superman
Scott Snyder
Unchained,
stuff.
Batman. They're going to
I
bring
think
out
that's
Justice
always-
League.
Yeah, there's always going to be a market for that. So that type of stuff. I do think the, Marvel Comics, DC Comics, some other, collected trades, I think people want to hold in their hand as print stuff. I personally, I wait for, I'm a trade waiter, I know, because I can't stand reading, here's a Huffy Bicycle ad. Okay, 2 more pages of ads. Okay, now I'm back to Wolverine fighting Elektra. That drives me nuts. For whatever reason, as a kid, I loved it because the ads were like, get this crazy ghost for $2 and scare your neighbors.
Oh, come on. We can get the Sergeant Rock action figures from Remco.
Yes.
From Remco.
Remco.
Yeah, it's from Remco Toys.
Yeah.
Those are the best ads ever. Those old
Yeah.
the 70s Marvel
Love
ads.
it.
60s,
Yeah.
70s.
Because I always love the ones that was like get bigger pecs or lose weight inside comic books.
Charles Atlas.
The Charles Atlas and like the X-ray spec.
Are you tired of being a wimp? Yeah.
Getting sand kicked in your face on the beach.
Oh,
Yeah,
Predator,
exactly.
Predator, high performance BMX accessories. Oh, we gotta get those.
There you go. Yeah, so I like
Dungeons
waiting
and
for
Dragons.
the trades.
Nowadays all you're getting is like Dr. Pepper, Dr. Pepper ads inside your Marvel comics.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Basketball and the
I'm still a single issue man. I get a trade, like if I want to read a whole arc at once, or if it's something that I missed, I want to go back and I'll get it. But I'm still to this day, I'm a single issue man. I'm there every Wednesday.
Yeah.
I've got a 20 to 25 book pull every week. I'm a nutcase for the single issues.
I think that's great.
Actually, I got a trade sitting in my box right now. I got to pick up. I got to pick up the Sonic Best of the Villains trade right now. That's sitting in my box.
See, I was a big fan of the single issue until, and this is a Marvel thing, and everybody my age will tell you this, they started doing crossovers across every book. So if you wanted to know what's happening in X-Men, suddenly you had to buy 44 books that month, and then it didn't make any sense, and it was just more confusing, and it got to be so annoying. I said, you know what? Okay, I'm done. And then
Speaking of which, Battle for the Atom starts next week, ladies and gentlemen. Battle for the Atom starts in a couple weeks through the X-Men books. Make sure you get all of them.
All 95.
Well,
50 issues.
Yeah.
Isn't it like Villains Month or something next month where they're releasing like one shots of like everything?
52
books with 3D covers.
Yeah, here we go.
I'm gonna definitely wait for the trades on that one.
For sure.
That right there.
Too many books.
3D means nothing to me, so I think I'm gonna have to wait.
They all have 3D motion
I'll probably get a few.
They have 3D motion covers.
I know, but
that's like what was wrong with the 90s, though. The 90s had all those holographic foil covers, and it was like, hey, can you just show me the artwork? Yeah.
The clone saga thing in Spider-Man had some of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I stopped reading
knowing
X-Men.
my shop, they won't carry all of them anyway, so we'll see.
Oh, I'll have all of them, and Kenny's going to pull all of them for me too, and I'm probably going to have to buy 52 books.
Yeah, Tommy.
I know it's going to happen.
know what's in my
shops, there's
box.
no way that they would have that much room on their shelves to hold such an amount of comics. So I'll have to ask my guy about it, but literally my shop is it's like the size of like most people's closets. So yeah, there's no way they're going to probably carry all of them. They'll have to get like a bigger table on Wednesdays and things.
And that's
I'm
why
such a nutcase.
That's why you can just go online and read Atomic Fist Punch, and you know you're going to get a new page every week,
Right.
and you don't have to
Exactly.
store them anywhere.
There you go.
You're set.
That's
on
right.
your hard
And
drive.
that's another good thing about having the online comics for kids is that you can give to your kids, and if they can't tear the cover up and stuff, and then you're like, why did you do that? Like, it's not going to happen. It's digital. Like, unless they like throw your phone in the water, like it's not going to get damaged.
Right.
Well, that and
I was
Drew and Jules can attest. You know, when we take our kids into the comic book store, it's probably like, oh, they're picking this up. They want this. Jules, you've always posted pictures of Noah picking up the same Superman toy over and over and over again.
Yeah.
I have always wanted to ask you guys, how do you guys keep your collection safe from your children? How do you do it?
No,
Having
it's funny. When Superman Family Adventures was coming out, you know I love Art and Franco. I'm a huge fan. I was telling somebody, I can't remember who it was. I think it was your wife's then. I think it was. We would buy 4 copies. So one for me, one for Keith, one for Paige, and one for Noah. I'm like, this is killing us. Like, and then all of the Tiny Titans, 4 copies. And I was like, because like, you know, Noah, he's 2 years old, so he doesn't understand. Like, you can tell him, you know, not to mess it, but he carries it around. He's putting it on his head. He's standing on it. So like, you know, basically my copy is going to be his copy because I'm going to save it for him. And my 8-year-old, she's pretty good with them. I mean, she keeps them really nice. I actually looked through her comic collection the other day, and they're like pristine condition. They're like mint, except for like a few that weren't bagged and boarded. They were a little bent, but yeah, he's crazy. He is on this. Anytime we go in, he was grabbing a Batman trade every single time, the same one. and it has Batman and Robin on the cover, and I don't even know where it is, but so finally it was $15. We just bought it for him. We're like, just here. You know, you can have it.
Yeah, just yesterday, my niece came over to the house to swim in the pool, and she's a little over a year old, and she's walking now, and she's kind of tottered around. I had my comic vault door open, and she started coming down the hall, and she started to walk in this room, and I went, no! And I went flying down the hall, and I'd scoop her up, like, no!
My kids got into my comics once, and they have not done it since. I don't know what else.
Speaking of,
do you think
books?
that we'll ever see Atomic Fist Punch in print, or do you think it's just always going to be? Are you always going to do digital?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm doing like about 2 or 3 story arcs, and I'm going to collect each one as a hardcover special edition with behind the scenes stuff.
Oh, yay!
You know, additional artwork, making of, like all that kind of stuff. So there'll definitely be a collection for print for sure, and then I'll
that is so exciting.
Have it be free online, and the people who really want
make sure to let us know when those come out. Let us know when those come out.
Definitely.
Absolutely, yeah.
First in line. Now, with everybody doing, it seems like now everywhere you look on Twitter and Facebook and everything, everyone's doing a Kickstarter. Is that something that you would think about doing for that, or do you think it's?
I batted that around, and I think I'm going to burn that bridge when I get there. I think, to me, having it just be accessible right now is so important, just to get it out there, and then building that audience that if I do a Kickstarter at some point, there'll be somebody who has heard of it at that point, and I think that's part of what makes a Kickstarter successful is people already know what you're doing. So yeah, I think I'll definitely consider that when I get there, but a collected printed edition is definitely in the works for sure.
Well, I think
we are definitely going to spread the word about
we're going to spread the word.
The books, about the.
Thanks. Every little bit helps. Every little bit helps because you're a teeny little fish in a giant pond of comics, and the response has been overwhelming. And so I'm really humbled by that. But at the same time, anybody promoting it in any way is just such a help to an independent kind of creator. So what you guys do is fantastic, and just that you have a voice in all this is just great, and I applaud you for it. So,
well, I think with this episode going up on you're quite welcome, and I think with this episode going up on followingthenerd.com, and I'm sure Jules could probably do a nice little write-up for the site about Atomic Fist Punch, let more people know about it.
Yeah.
We can get that.
Well, she turned us on to it, so Jules should be the one to write.
AtomicFistPunch.com. Make sure you check us all out at our Twitter handles, and make sure you check us out on followingthenerd.com. Follow our reviews. Follow us on Facebook.com/Spin-Productions on the Panel to Panel Facebook page. Chief, what week are we in now on the Beard Challenge?
8 weeks. 8 weeks. Amazing Spider-Man 2 Beard Challenge. Not going to shave till, August 2014? Is that when the movie comes out?
That's when the movie comes out.
It's going to be rough, but I'm still hanging in there. It's still coming. Still coming along.
How itchy are you right now? How itchy?
I'm dying, man. I'm dying. I hate it, but I've made a commitment to the show, and I'm not going to break it.
When it gets real big, you got to. When it gets real long, you do got to come on the show in a pointy hat with a staff.
Gandalf.
Oh, I'm going to do it up, man. I'm going to do it up.
I got a long beard.
We should do a Gandalf episode.
I'll be more like Radagast the Brown, though, because I don't have as much gray as Gandalf.
The whole time, if we do a Gandalf episode, I'll be like this the whole time. Is it secret? Is it safe?
Yeah.
But,
do you watch wrestling?
Yeah.
Do you watch wrestling?
Do I watch wrestling?
Yes. Yes.
I do not.
Are you saying
I have not watched wrestling since I've...
There's a wrestler named Daniel Bryan. He debuted a new shirt this week that I feel would be appropriate for your beard. It is white and it just says the beard is here and it has an arrow that points up to your beard.
Oh, I might have to get that.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll see if I can get that for next show, and I'll wear it.
But until next time.
Or I could just get a white shirt with a marker.
Yes, you could just marker it and save yourself like $19.99.
Exactly.
But until next time, you don't know what's going to happen next, but make sure you tune in. So whatever weird, crazy thing is going to be at the end of this video, at the end of this episode, let's just roll that beautiful bean footage.